The third prophet. The value of each limb and each sense is increased 1,000-fold. The intelligence is, for example, like a tool. If you do not sell it to Almighty Allah, but rather employ it for the sake of the soul, it will become an ill-omened, noxious and debilitating tool that will burden your weak person with all the sad sorrows of the past and the terrifying fears of the future. It will descend to the rank of an inauspicious and destructive tool. It is for this reason that a sinful man will frequently resort to drunkenness or frivolous pleasure in order to escape the vexations and injuries of his intelligence. But if you sell your intelligence to its true owner and employ it on his behalf, then it will become like the key to a talisman, unlocking the infinite treasures of compassion and the vaults of wisdom that creation contains. It will thus rise to being a dominical guide, preparing its owner for eternal bliss. To take another example, the eye is one of the senses, a window through which the spirit looks out onto this world. If you do not sell it to Allah Almighty, but rather employ it on behalf of the soul, by gazing upon a handful of transient, impermanent beauties and scenes, it will sink to the level of being a pander to lust and the concupiscent soul. But if you sell the eye to the all-seeing Maker and employ it on His behalf and within limits traced out by Him, then your eye will rise to the rank of a reader of the great book of being, a witness to the miracles of dominical art, a blessed bee sucking on the blossoms of mercy in the garden of this globe. Yet another example is that of the tongue and the sense of taste. If you do not sell it to your wise Creator, but employ it instead on behalf of the soul and for the sake of the stomach, it sinks and declines to a level of a gatekeeper at the stable of the stomach, a watchman at its factory. But if you sell it to the generous provider, the sense of taste contained in the tongue will rise to the rank of a skilled overseer of the treasuries of divine compassion, a grateful inspector in the kitchens of Allah's eternal power. So look well, O intelligence. See the difference between a tool of destruction and the key to all being. And look carefully, O eye. See the difference between an abominable pander and the learned overseer of the divine library, and taste well, O tongue. See the difference between a stable doorkeeper or a factory watchman and the superintendent of the treasury of Allah's mercy. Compare all other tools and limbs to these, and then you will understand that in truth the believer acquires a nature worthy of paradise and the unbeliever a nature conforming to hell. The reason for each of them attaining his respective value is that the believer, by virtue of his faith, uses the trust of his Creator on his behalf and within the limits traced out by him, whereas the unbeliever betrays the trust and employs it for the sake of the instinctual soul. The fourth prophet. Man is helpless and exposed to numerous misfortunes. He is indigent and his needs are numerous. He is weak and the burden of life is most heavy. If he does not rely on the omnipotent one of glory, place his trust in him, and confidently submit to him, his conscience will always be troubled. Fruitless torments, pains and regrets will suffocate him and intoxicate him, or turn him into a beast. The fifth prophet. Those who have experienced illumination and had unveiled to them the true nature of things, the elect who have witnessed the truth, are all agreed that the exalted reward for all the worship and glorification of Allah performed by your members and instruments will be given to you at the time of greatest need, in the form of the fruits of paradise. If you spurn this trade with its fivefold profit, in addition to being deprived of its profit, you will suffer fivefold loss. The first loss: the property and offspring to which you are so attached, the soul and its caprice that you worship, the youth and life with which you are infatuated, all will vanish and be lost. Your hands will be empty, but they will leave behind them sin and pain, fastened on your neck like a yoke. The second loss: you will suffer the penalty for betrayal of trust, for you will have wronged your own self by using the most precious tools on the most worthless objects. The third loss: by casting down all the precious faculties of man to a level much inferior to the animals, you will have insulted and transgressed against Allah's wisdom. The fourth loss: in your weakness and poverty, you will have placed the heavy burden of life on your weak shoulders, and will constantly groan and lament beneath the blows of transience and separation. The fifth loss: you will have clothed in an ugly form, fit to open the gates of hell in front of you, the fair gifts of the Compassionate One, such as the intelligence, the heart, the eye, and the tongue, given to you to make preparation for the foundations of everlasting life and eternal happiness in the hereafter. Now, is it so difficult to sell the trust? Is it so burdensome that many people shun the transaction? By no means. It is not in the least burdensome, for the limits of the permissible are broad and are adequate for man's desire. There is no need to trespass on the forbidden. The duties imposed by Allah are light and few in number. To be the slave and soldier of Allah is an indescribably pleasurable honour. One's duty is simply to act and embark on all things in Allah's name, like a soldier, to take and to give on Allah's behalf, to move and be still in accordance with His permission and law. If one falls short, then one seek His forgiveness and say, O Lord, forgive our faults and accept us as your slaves. Make us sure holders of your trust until the time comes when it is taken from us. Amen. And make petition unto Him.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise.